Hi, I'm Kirsten, the Ectopic Pregnancy Support Podcast host. Thank you for listening, and I hope these stories and conversations bring you comfort and help you feel less alone. Enjoy this episode. Welcome, Allison. I'm so glad you're here with me today to share your story and help other women.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, of course. Not the circumstances, of course, but you're very courageous
Yeah,
for being vulnerable about
yeah,
this topic.
yeah, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How old are you? And are you married or not?
I'm married. We got married in 2022, and I am 31 years old. I turned 31 just last month on March 9th, and I live in Ontario, Canada.
Okay. Ontario, that's actually not far from where I live. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay,
Yeah, so
okay.
you're just
Yeah,
a little
a little more
ways
north.
away. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got married in 2022.
Yeah.
When did you decide to start trying to start a family?
I wanted to start trying immediately, and my husband wanted to wait a little bit. So we waited a few months, and we ended up we got married in October of 2022, and we ended up getting pregnant in January of 2023. We thought we were going to have to try for a while. That's why I was kind of more like, let's start trying now because, it can take a while. And it didn't. So we got very lucky. And we had our firstborn, and his due date was actually the day after our first wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's such a good gift.
Yeah, he ended up coming early though. So he came September 28th. Um,
Okay.
so 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
But it was still, we at least had our baby for our first
Hmm.
anniversary. So that
Yeah.
was exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Dennis.
Dennis. Oh, very cute.
Yeah, yeah. My husband, he doesn't want a name that, you know, no one can pronounce.
Hmm.
And I want a name that not everyone has. So we compromised on Dennis.
Yeah. I'd say that's a happy medium.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. It's funny you say that. I said the same thing about my son, Roy, because
Hmm.
so my name's pronounced Kirsten, but everyone says Kristen and Kirsten. So
Hmm.
my entire life I was called a different name. And I knew for a fact I don't want our son to have the experience I did growing up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted it unique but pronounceable.
Yeah, yeah, and that's my husband's name was always mispronounced as well, so
Mhm. So I understand him.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he was born in 2023.
Yeah.
And when did you decide you wanted to give him a sibling?
So I wanted to give him a sibling as soon as possible, but because of the emergency C-section, we're advised to wait for them to be 2 years apart.
Hmm.
So we waited, and it felt like forever for me. So come February of this year was when they would be 2 years apart. And that's just so that you can try for a VBAC, which
Hmm.
we wanted to do because we want more children and would hope that we don't have to wait. So we, yeah, we started and we tried for February, and we got pregnant again on the first time around.
Wow.
But this time was the ectopic. Um,
So that was this year.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow. So it's very fresh.
Yes, yeah, I actually just got discharged from the EPAU yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry that you're currently in the thick of it.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's difficult, but
yeah, but I commend you for wanting to share your story so soon.
I think it'll help me try to, you know, get through it as well, along with hopefully other women who maybe have similar things going on that I did, because I think every ectopic is obviously different, but sometimes there's a little piece here from this person and a piece there from that person that is
Yeah.
maybe a bit similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Um, Gosh, analogy maybe? It is. It's almost like you take a piece of everyone's story and somehow your own story gets made up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That.
and maybe like a piece of mine will help with a certain piece of somebody else's.
Yeah. Okay. I love that so much. So, when did you test positive and when did you start experiencing unknown or unique symptoms?
Yes, so we tested positive at the end of February. And then on March 7th, I had started spotting. And because with my previous pregnancy with my firstborn, I had actually spotted with him. I had implantation bleeding, and then I spotted with him around 12 weeks, and then again around 18 weeks.
Mhm.
And some of it was more bright red, and I was concerned. So every time I'd race to the ER. This time around, I started spotting on March 7th, and I was like, okay, I've been through this before. It's gonna be okay. It might just end. I'll wait and, see how things go. But as I had continued to spot, and this time it started brown, but then it got brighter red, and I was getting more anxious, but I was still really holding on to hope, like, it happened before, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then on March 10th is, well, uh, slightly before that, my son got the stomach flu. So on March 10th, I ended up getting the stomach flu from him as well. So at midnight, March 10th, I was very sick and vomiting, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm having morning sickness. This is a good sign.
Mhm.
This is good." Then I went to the bathroom and I just peed blood. And in that moment, I was like, "Okay, I'm going to the ER." I woke up my husband. I said, "I have to go." He wanted to come with me, but I didn't want to have to wake up our son to bring him with us. So my husband stayed home and I went to the ER on my own. They did my blood work, and I was there from, I think I arrived like after everything had happened around 2 a.m. Didn't get home until 9:30. So it was a long visit, and my HCG levels at that time were 20. So the ER doctor that was there, he was really nice. He basically told me, at how far along you are, we would like to see them a bit higher. So I'm going to set you up an appointment with the EPAU, the Early Pregnancy Assessment Unit, and try to get you in as soon as possible and see what happens. He didn't want to, he basically said it's not looking good, but we don't know yet. So
Mhm.
maybe trying to prepare me for what's to come, but he didn't know. He did want to do a transvaginal ultrasound at that point. He did do the one like just on top,
Yeah.
and it actually like hurt a little bit, which I'd
Oh,
not experienced before.
uh-huh.
Um, and then he wanted to do the transvaginal, but my husband had to get to work, and we run a farm, so he had to get out. We have to milk the cows. It's Our employee didn't end up showing up that day, of course.
Oh.
So it didn't work out. So I was calling his mom. I didn't want to tell anybody what was going on yet because I didn't know, but I had to. So I'm calling his mom. I'm like, we're expecting possibly a miscarriage at the hospital. You need to go get Dennis. We need help. So she did. And yeah, that was the first kind of the start to it of all our symptoms and what was going on.
So how many days were in between when you did your ER visit and that appointment?
My visit was on March 10th. My appointment was the 14th, so 4 days until I got the appointment.
Okay.
And he wanted me in sooner, but that was as soon. I guess it's busy, which is makes me sad, but
Yeah, yeah, that is sad and unfortunate for cases like this.
yeah.
Did they recommend you get lab work in between there?
Nope, nope. I just waited until the 14th. And also I have O negative blood type, which means that I'm RH negative. And because I've had a previous pregnancy, I need special needles called Rogam. I
Okay.
need them at, I think it was 28 weeks and then again after birth. And if there's any spotting or bleeding in that time, I need another needle. And if I get pregnant and have a miscarriage, I need to get Rogam because if I don't, my blood will basically create antibodies
Okay.
and attack any future babies. And then, so this needle helps prevent my blood from building antibodies.
Okay.
So when I was at the ER, he brought it up, like, not sure if I need to give it yet or not, because only 16% of the population has O negative or RH negative blood.
Hmm.
Um, so he didn't really know. Um, so he kind of left it with the way everything happened. I was eager to get home, and then it wasn't an afterthought. So
Okay.
in between the 10th and the 14th, I was now calling my family doctor, and um, she was like, "Oh, I can't get you to talk to the doctor right now, but I'll get you to talk to the nurse. So leave a message for the nurse." And I don't hear anything back. I was trying to call the EPAU to see, like, do I need to go to the ER and get this shot, or is it okay if I wait? Because they say 72 hours after bleeding,
Hmm.
that you should get the shot. So
Yeah.
then they no no one picked up. I left a message. I called midwives, the midwives that I had before. I had already set up an appointment, so I'd already, I hadn't seen them yet, but we were in the works of getting started. But because I wasn't an actual client yet, they can't give me any information. I've called my previous OB. They're not allowed to give me any information. It's like, I just want to know because there's the measles outbreak and everything. I want to stay
Yeah.
out of the ER if I can, especially when I have a toddler and we're running our own business. I can't, like, I tend to bring him everywhere with me. So
Right.
that was hard. And then finally, the day before my appointment, the EPAU finally called me back and said, no, as long as you're less than 8 weeks pregnant, you don't need the shot. So that it was fine. But it was like, oh, the amount of time spent in worry and stress to even know if I need to get this needle
Right.
before appointment.
Right. That's a lot of stress and just adds to the unknown.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happened when you went to the actual appointment the next day?
So we were able to get somebody to watch our son, and my husband was able to come with me, which was important to me because the
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
Um, and we got there. Everything started all right. We talked with the nurse. She was very friendly, but she couldn't answer any of our questions because she didn't know. She kept saying, "When the doctor comes, you can ask him." So I said, "Okay." And the doctor came. He asked me a few questions about, like, when was the first day of your last period? And, have you had any miscarriages before? Have you had any previous surgeries? So I said my emergency C-section with my first son. And then he says, "Oh, is it okay we give you the transvaginal ultrasound?" I said, "Yeah." Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention. They wanted me to take my blood work just before my appointment. So I had it done an hour before my appointment.
Okay.
Um, and then they wanted to do the transvaginal ultrasound. Um, and so I was like, "Oh, okay, well, things are kind of going quickly." And he mentioned that I was the last appointment of the day. I didn't think much of it at that point. And he's kind of rushes me into the ultrasound room, gets us all set up. does the ultrasound, and he wasn't very nice. He was actually quite rude and mean, in my opinion. Really unfortunate and upset about the whole situation. He um he does the ultrasound. He doesn't really say much. I'm kind of asking questions like, "Oh, what are we kind of looking for?" and stuff. Just ignores me. Um, and then he basically said, "So you're about 5 weeks along?" And I said, "Yeah, about that, I think." And he says, "Well, it doesn't appear that way. Um, you must have gotten your period dates mixed up." And I said, "Well, the February 1st was the first day of the period, so it lasted 7 days." I didn't really know what to say. I was a little bit shocked. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I've been recording it for years. Um, I don't think I
That's a
got it
very
mixed."
that's a very shocking thing for someone to say, that
Yeah,
you recorded it wrong,
yeah,
not knowing who you are.
yeah, and even like this whole situation, like I'm here for a reason. Um, maybe because I didn't know what was going on at that point, like I had no idea. But yeah, he basically just said, "Well, I don't see anything. It's probably too early to see. You got your period dates wrong." And he asked the nurse, "Do we have our blood results back?" And she says, "No, not yet." And then he starts to basically just run out the room. And I was like, "Wait a sec. I have questions. I didn't even get to ask a single question yet." And another nurse actually came running down the hall saying, "We have the results." So he comes back in and they say the results, her HCG levels are 30. So they went up from 20 to 30 in between those 4 days.
Mhm.
And he says, "Oh, okay. So instead of doing blood work one time next week, we're going to do it twice." And he says, "Go on Wednesday and go on," or I can't remember. I think it was Wednesday and Friday. Um, so I was like, "Okay." And then he runs out the room again. And I was like, "Wait, I'm confused." So he comes back in. He says, "Well, what are you confused about?" And I said, why did my HCG levels go up?" And he basically just said, "Well, it doesn't matter. They're not where they're supposed to be. So this is not a viable pregnancy anyway," and then left. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Said that without explaining anything about the situation?
no, no, that's basically that was his explanation. It's not viable. And he was gone. He basically ran out the room. And so I could tell the nurse felt completely awful. And I started asking her. I was like, "I still have questions. Like, my biggest question was with my RhoGAM shot because they said on the phone, as long as you're less than 8 weeks," but I wanted to know why, because that's, could determine how many children we have in the future. I just want to know the reason as to why I don't need it less than 8 weeks. And she said, "Again, I don't know." And I said, "Well, why did my levels go up?" And she says, "Maybe it's just maybe you're earlier than you thought," kind of like what the doctor was saying. So maybe it's just earlier than you thought, or maybe you ovulated late. And so, things got started a little bit later. So then I said, "Well, then why did I bleed?" Like, that whole week before, or the 4 days before this appointment, I've been bleeding like a heavy period. And
Mhm.
she said, "Sometimes it's possible, it happens to some women." And then me thinking with my previous pregnancy, all the spotting, like maybe this is just the way it is for me. So that was basically the end of the appointment, and
Oh
I
my
felt very
gosh.
confused and
So in
uh,
that appointment, did they say anything about an ectopic?
no,
Nothing. Wow.
nothing.
So he said it's not a viable pregnancy, but he didn't define what that even meant.
No, no.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
I wish there were better words because that is not right at
I
all.
I know I was very upset, very confused. And it was hard too because like I have a few friends now that have had miscarriages, um, but they hadn't had ectopic pregnancies. So now I'm kind of talking to them. I'm like, this is kind of what I'm experiencing, and but their levels had all dropped. I was like, why are mine going up? So then
Mhm.
all I do now, because I didn't get any answers from the doctor, I just start Googling everything. And that's when I first started seeing ectopic pregnancies. And then, molar and some other ones. And then but I was gravitating based off of what the nurse had kind of said. She's holding on to hope. So there was, yeah, you could have ovulated late, or it could be a slow maturing pregnancy. So I was really hanging on tight
Yeah.
to those ones at that point.
Yeah. And I just want to say how wrong it is that you had to go home and Google what potentially an unviable pregnancy is.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
medical professional should be educating you on
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was an awful, awful feeling.
Oh,
And yeah, it felt like everybody around, like nobody could really help me because they've not really experienced it the way I was experiencing it.
mhm.
So, yeah, you try to reach out to people, and I started, following miscarriage groups, and I did post like kind of what I was going through, but it never ended up getting accepted. And I don't know why. Maybe because my levels were rising and they didn't know what an ectopic was either. So they didn't want, other women going through a miscarriage to feel and read that
Right,
possibly.
right.
Um, but yeah, I couldn't, I was just Googling all the time. And yeah.
That's oh, that makes me so mad
Mhm.
because like you, I also had to Google and understand what an ectopic pregnancy was because I wasn't given the proper information.
Yeah. Yeah, and at that point, when I was Googling ectopic pregnancy as well, like it kept coming up, but it was saying, 1.5 to 2.5 or to 2% of pregnancies. So I kept blowing it off because I'm like, that's rare. That's probably not that. It's not going to be that one. Um, so I didn't read a whole bunch about it. Like I saw that it's life-threatening, and that's kind of really all I knew about it because I didn't bother. I didn't think that would be it.
Right? You think to yourself, "Oh, this would never happen to me."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, you had to have been Googling for a couple days up until your next round of labs, right?
Yeah, so my next round of labs was March 19th, and um I came back at a 61, and I was told you're supposed to double every 48 to 72 hours. And I was like, well, it didn't quite double, but it's close.
Mhm.
Maybe it is a slow maturing pregnancy from what I had Googled. And then on the 21st, it came back at 66. And I'm like, okay, that's not even close to doubling.
Mhm.
Um, so then at that point, I had to wait for the EPAU to call me again because they had never told me to book another appointment or anything. They wanted to wait and see with my lab results. So they did end up calling and they said, can you get blood work done today? Which was the 24th when they called. And I'm like, I have a toddler and my husband's working all the time. It's not easy for me to just drop everything and go.
Mhm.
So it's just the expectation of like, you need to do this now.
Mhm.
And I understood the importance of it, but I was like, it's really difficult.
Mhm.
Um, but I did end up getting my aunt was able to come down and watch Dennis for me so that I could race out and get some blood work. And while I was talking to the nurse, I had already set up from with my family doctor a while back to get my 8-week ultrasound. And I said, should I still go to that? Or do you like, are you guys going to be doing that? And she said, no, it might be a good idea. Why don't you go to that? So that was the next day. And I did end up going to that. And I really wish I hadn't, because it didn't end up being necessary to go to. And it was, again, just another bad experience.
Mhm.
So I had actually called them the day before. I said, I'm coming in tomorrow for the 8-week ultrasound, but we are suspecting a miscarriage. I didn't say ectopic or anything, because again, I don't even know at this point yet.
Great.
So she said, yeah, okay, that's fine. I will make a note of that and let them know. And yeah, so I end up going in and I'm sitting there waiting. And of course, this happy couple comes out with their ultrasound pictures and she's holding them so you can see the baby. And I'm just trying to keep it together because I'm like, I know I'm not going to get that today. This is supposed to be the ultrasound where I hear the heartbeat, see the heartbeat, and all of that stuff. And I know that's not going to happen today. So that was really hard, having to go to the appointment that I had booked for that and knowing we're not going to see that. Um, so then she finally is finished dealing with the other couple, and she asked me, she's like, "Oh, and do you want to book your follow-up?" And I said, "No, we're suspecting a miscarriage." And she apologized a lot. She felt bad because she was the one I had talked to. That's when I broke down because, yeah,
Oh,
it was hard. So,
which is
um,
okay. I mean, when you have something flagged in your account, I feel like it should be loud and clear so that there are no mistakes like that, because, you know, you were already triggered going into the appointment.
yeah,
Then you saw the couple come out with their ultrasound photos.
yeah,
Then you have this comment. So that's three
mhm,
in probably a matter of minutes.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just shouldn't happen.
No, it was really tough. Um, but yeah, so I go and I sit in the waiting room and I just trying, wiping my eyes, trying to be okay again. And but now that you're already crying, it's hard because
Yeah.
you know, in the moment, it's difficult.
Mhm.
Um, but the ultrasound tech comes out, calls me in, and she asks, okay, when is the first day of your last period and all of that stuff. And I can't remember right now what exactly she asked me, but it led me already to believe that she didn't know. And so I told her again, the ultrasound tech now, like, well, we're suspecting a miscarriage. And she looked at me so confused. And I said, well, the EPAU, they told me to still come anyway, um, just to see. So I don't know if she even knew about ectopic pregnancies or anything. I don't know if they now at this point is suspecting it. Um, but yeah, so she seemed quite confused. And she started doing the one like right on top of the belly, and she didn't show me the screen, which I appreciate because even if, there was things there, it's probably better that I'm not
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah.
So, and then she starts looking kind of concerned and she's asking, more questions like, can you remind me when the first day of your last period was? And she's like, oh, and did you have any bleeding since then? And I said, yeah, I started spotting the 7th, bleeding the 10th. And she said, okay, well, maybe I'd like to do a transvaginal ultrasound. Is that okay with you? And I said, yeah, sure, that's fine. So we do that, and she still looks confused. She's taking some measurements of stuff, and then she says, okay, we're all done. You can get dressed and be on your way. And that was it. But while I was getting dressed, of course, the monitors there left up, and I can't help but to look, and I have no idea what I'm looking at, but I see something. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is okay. Maybe it is that slow maturing. I was really hanging on to it's going to be a slow maturing pregnancy.
Mhm.
And that's all that's going on. So, yeah, then on,
So did a doctor come in after, or you were just told to go?
no, so, um, the way it is here, that I think there are certain places where they do have doctors come in afterwards, because I remember my friend talking about that, but I just went to the local ultrasound tech like within my small little town. So they don't have any doctors there. It's just a tech, and they're not allowed to say anything because they're not a doctor.
Right.
So they don't want to give wrong information.
Okay.
So yeah, it was just left at that, and then they send all of the their notes and photos and stuff to the EPAU and my family doctor.
Okay. And then you get called or you get a message with the results?
Typically, yes, through the doctors, but because I had been, with the EPAU going now more frequently, they didn't call me with the results. They just had me come in and
Okay.
then they talk about them. So, yeah, then it was on the 27th. So I hadn't even had any blood work now from the 24th to the 27th. They had me take blood work when I came in again just before that appointment. Um, Sorry, I got my dates mixed up. I do have a paper with my notes here, so I don't
It's
do that,
it's
but
good to have it written down because there are so many details. So I appreciate you writing them down.
yeah, I knew I would forget if I didn't, and I'm still. So on the 27th, the EPAU called me again, and I was actually taking my son out to an early on program, which are programs, free programs where you get to bring your children and you play with toys and other kids and stuff. So I was there and I got a call from the EPAU. And again, not very nice on the phone, basically saying, well, we need you in tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I'll figure something out. I'll make it work. And then she said, and we're going to discuss the pill. And that was it. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm, with all these people, and I'm like, they want to discuss the pill. And I'm feeling angry because I still don't even know anything. I have no information. The only information is from Google.
I can't
So,
believe that they even said that on the phone because now you're going
yeah.
to go Google, what's the pill? What is this?
Yeah. Well, I had an idea on what the pill was based off of from the miscarriage group that I was following on Facebook and other people talking about it. And I
Okay.
was like, I remember I called my friend. I was so upset and I said, I'm not taking anything until they give me answers. And they're going to have to convince me pretty well at this point because I've kind of lost trust in them
Hmm.
now, like, with everything that's going on. Um,
Rightfully so. I wouldn't
yeah,
trust them either.
yeah. But what happens next actually was on like kind of incredible in a way. So I go on March 28th was when they wanted me to come in, and I thought I'm getting the same male doctor, and I'm very anxious about this because the way he treated me already, and I have a new doctor, and it actually turned out to be the OB that was helping me with my son in my previous pregnancy, and I really liked her from when I had her,
Mhm.
um, going
That's great.
forward. Yeah, so and I couldn't believe it, but I guess the way the EPAU works here anyway is that it's just a whole bunch of doctors and you never know what doctor you're gonna get. And to me, that kind of seems a bit odd because going through something like this, I feel like consistency with the same doctor. But
Hmm.
I was also happy because I was like, I really didn't want that doctor again, that
Yeah.
first doctor.
Yeah.
Um,
That was he was not helpful whatsoever.
no, no. So she asked again, we're going to do a transvaginal ultrasound. And I said, can I look at the monitor? And this time I wanted to because, you know, everything going on, and she can actually explain while we're doing it and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I we're looking at the monitor and she says, yeah, we're not seeing anything. We can't see your fetus. And because of your blood work and the levels rising slowly, this is likely an ectopic pregnancy. And I was just blown away because, again, I saw it and I'm like, that's rare. It can't be because it's so rare. I just had it in my head. It's not going to be because it's rare.
Mhm.
Um, and then she said, I also am noticing here you have a 5 centimeter cyst. Did the doctor you talked to the first time at the EPAU mention that? And I said, no. And she looked angry. She was not happy. And she said, well, what did he tell you at your appointment? I said, nothing. And she was up like visually upset with
Wow.
how that had happened. And I
Good.
asked her too, I said, I had my 8-week ultrasound on the 25th. Do you guys have those results? And she says, no, we don't. But I did tell the lady to send it there. So I don't know that the EPAU never got those results. And with this doctor, the OB, she answered all of my questions. And because I had known her in the past and had good experience, I did trust her. And she said, I do highly recommend that we do the methotrexate shot and that we do it today because we don't want the risk of it rupturing. And this shot can potentially help save your tube, even though we don't know where it is. It's, we don't know. So we want to be on the safe side. We don't want it to rupture.
Mhm.
So that is the day I got the methotrexate shot. And then I also got to ask her about the ROGAM shot. And I was like, well, now at this point, I am over 8 weeks along. And they told me if you're less. And now technically I still have this baby. And I don't know if we're going to be bleeding after this shot. Do I need ROGAM? And she said, um, technically not, and because I had already bled and it's been past the 72 hours, that it likely isn't going to do much, but she said, it doesn't hurt. It's not going to hurt your body. If anything, it's only just going to be like, you know, it'll only do good. It won't do bad.
Mhm.
It might not do everything we want it to do, but it's not going to be bad. So she said, I'll order it for you. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll order it for you. Let's be on the safe side and we'll take it.
Mhm.
So yeah, that day I got my blood work and then my ROGAM needle and then the 2 methotrexate shots.
That's a lot of injections that day,
Yeah.
or a lot
Um,
of needles, at least. Where did you get your methotrexate injections?
just in my bum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they give you a choice?
No, I didn't even know that there was a choice. So after listening to your podcast and hearing other people get choices, I was like, oh, it's interesting. I was never given a choice, but at the same time, I think they were, because my levels were still so low that they didn't feel that they want to do surgery to remove a tube or to
Mhm.
find that it was a better option for me to just get the methotrexate shot.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to first say that I'm glad that you had a better experience with this
Mm,
second doctor,
yeah.
because an empathetic and caring medical professional makes all the difference
It makes
in
a world
this,
of a difference.
yes, in this traumatic situation that we
Yeah.
go through.
Yeah.
When you received methotrexate, were you told that you had to wait 3 months to try to conceive again? And like, were you given rules and guidelines after?
They gave me a pamphlet And that's where I got most of the information from. And then I was able to ask the nurse who did the shots for me, like questions that I had. She is the one that told me that I would need to wait the 3 months. And then we got the methotrexate shot in that unit that same day. So they had to order it up. So my husband and I had to wait in the room for a few hours. And so we went over the pamphlet and stuff. And that's when we started reading, like, oh, I have to flush the toilet twice after use, wipe everything down. If I, start bleeding, I have to double bag all my pads and stuff like that. And I was I was really concerned about that because, well, we have a toddler at home
Mhm.
and I don't want to accidentally harm him. So I did ask a lot of questions about that, and I was taking a lot of extra precautions at home. So, like they said, 48 hours is when it's the worst, but continue to do this stuff for a week. Um,
What was
which,
the reasoning for flushing the toilet extra and bagging? I've never heard of that.
oh, they told me it's just safety precautions because the methotrexate shot, it's like, from my understanding, like basically poison. And if my bodily fluids get on to somebody else, so let's say if, you know, there were some bodily fluids left around the toilet and my son happened to touch it and then touch his mouth, then
Mhm.
he was getting the poison into his system.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, and
I
I
mean,
guess,
I know that it's a very powerful drug. Um, I think the mishap with me following methotrexate was I wasn't given any rules or guidelines other
Mhm.
than waiting 3 months. So I always find it interesting to hear what other women have been told following the
Yeah.
injection.
Yeah, because hearing that was quite scary for me. I was like, I don't wanna hurt my family, and I asked her, I was like, "So what happens if they do end up, you know, getting it?" And she didn't even know. She's like, "No one's ever actually asked that." And I'm like, "Why not?" I
Yeah.
wanna know what the signs are so that if something happens, I can get my child or my husband to a hospital if that's the case, if that's what they need, or if it's, like, I don't know what would happen, if it's
Mhm.
urgent or if it's, like, just gonna make them sick for a bit, I have no idea. But I was just yeah, I was told, "Wipe everything down. If you end up vomiting, like, you have to clean it up yourself, wear gloves," and yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
That's crazy,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
makes sense. So
Mhm.
once you got home and I mean, how long did it take you to realize the severity of the situation?
Um, Honestly, I think it still was a little while. Like, the whole ride home, my husband and I, we were quite quiet. I think we were just trying to, you know, think about what just happened.
Yeah.
Um, and we didn't really talk much about it. I think we were just both in shock about everything that had been going on and now what we're being told, like, you have to be so careful even going to the bathroom. You have to, you know, wait again to try again and stuff like that. And I didn't know at that point why. And I feel like sometimes when you're in the moment, you have questions, but then as time goes on, you're like, oh, I wish I would have asked this and this and
Mhm.
this. Like, you develop more questions with time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it took a few days to really for it all to sink in. And I was very lucky that my mom is now retired. So after we got the methotrexate shot, she actually came to our house and she did cooking and cleaning and helping with my son because, like, we're a bit of an emotional wreck. And I also didn't know how I'm going to react to this shot and stuff. So we were very lucky that she was able to do that for us. And I
Mhm.
know there's probably not many people who are able to have that. And even like the next day, well, my husband's sister, she ended up coming down to help in the barn, my husband in the barn, because you're told no heavy lifting,
Mhm.
no um, really any exercise or anything like that, like just low key, keep it easy. You don't want to rupture.
Yeah.
So now I can't help him at work. And so she came, she helped him. She also taught my mom how to do what needs to get done because then his sister, she has work, so she can't come all the time to help. So yeah, my mom helped him in the morning the next day, and I was alone with my son watching, and I'm like, wow, I am so tired. I've never felt this tired in my entire life. I couldn't keep my eyes open, so I just put Miss Rachel on and I tried my best. And after that, my mom couldn't go to the barn because I couldn't even stay awake. And that's not good when you're taking care of a child. You have
No.
to stay awake. So,
Sounds like you had a really great support system
yes, I did.
following, which is amazing and needed,
Yeah.
uh, regardless of the circumstance. But yeah, methotrexate makes you so exhausted.
Yeah, I
And
didn't even think I could get that exhausted.
I know, I know, I couldn't believe how I felt
Mhm.
after. And it didn't hit me for a couple of days, but
Okay.
when it hit me, it really hit me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like it hit me the day after. Then 2 days after, I was tired, even more tired than the first day, and then the cramps a bit started, and they
Mhm.
tell you if you're feeling unbearable pain, then go straight to the ER, and I'm like, "Well, what is that?" So then I feel a little bit pain, and you're, like, scared. It's like, "Well, it's bearable, but what if it's still you don't know." So
Yeah.
it's just a whole time of unknown and being freaked out
Mhm.
about that. Um,
In Canada, do they have you go get labs done following the injection? Okay.
yes. So I got and they told me too at the time that, um, the day that I got the methotrexate that my levels might still go up come my first labs, and then the second one, they would like to see them have decreased.
Okay.
So on the 31st, my levels did go up to 120, which really freaked me out because I was like, "Wow, now this is much higher than they've ever been."
Mhm.
Um, but then I'm hearing other people and I'm like, "Wow, mine were very low."
Mhm.
But still, for me in the moment, that was very high. Then April 3rd, they dropped down to 81. Then on the 4th, I had another EPAU visit and they did another transvaginal ultrasound. They did more blood work and um, they were happy that my levels had dropped. I think it was like 25% or something. So then I didn't need another dose, but I still needed to get lab work done. At that point, they said we can do it once a week as
Okay.
opposed to twice. And then, yeah, so my last labs were on the 17th and they went down to a 6. So they
Okay.
called me yesterday and they said, yeah, we can discharge you now that they were low enough. So,
Right. So, does that mean when you're discharged, technically, does that mean you're done doing labs because your numbers have been going down consistently?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they won't need to, I don't need to come back. Like, I'm I'm done, I guess. I've
Yeah.
made it through. We
I
finished.
remember also getting the call once my last lab was sent to my doctor, and they called me to say you're below a 5, which means, essentially you're not pregnant anymore. And it was such a bittersweet feeling because, you're so glad that you are done doing the labs and this experience is quote unquote over. I mean,
Mhm.
it's really not over, but at least the HCG part is over. But you're also really sad because
That was your
you're
baby.
yeah, you were pregnant, that was your baby, and it's almost like this is something we did. We had to do it,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just such an unexplainable feeling. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but it's very bittersweet.
Yeah. Yeah. You're happy the experience is over, but that also means, yeah, now you've officially lost your baby. So now you can start grieving.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
So are you in that stage? Yeah, it's okay. It's a very emotional, traumatic thing to
yeah.
go through.
Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, nobody understands except those who've gone through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and, like, people, they wanna say things and try to help, like, so the amount of time I'll get my blood work back, "Oh, this is good," and I'm like, "Is it though?" It's
It's
maybe not the best choice of words, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I think there's a long way to go as far as communication and ectopic pregnancy, not only from medical professionals, but the right or wrong things to say to someone going through loss.
Yeah.
You can tell some people are trying to be nice and
Mhm.
encourage you, but all
Yeah.
you really need to hear is, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
need anything, let me know. Do you
Yes.
want me to drop off dinner on Tuesday night? You know,
Yeah.
just little things that make you know that you're loved and supported and,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Or even, like, "How can I help you?"
yeah.
What do you need? Yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes I find too, it's hard to ask for help, or sometimes if you it's even hard to know what you need, and
Mm.
yeah, but yeah, you I guess, yeah. I don't really know what to say.
It's really hard to know what
Yeah.
you need because you're just trying to get through it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So now that you're a couple weeks out from getting methotrexate and you
Mhm.
were discharged yesterday, how do you feel today and looking at your future?
Um, I do feel anxious. I am worried about getting pregnant in the future, and I know I want to try as soon as we can because, well, it feels almost a little bit like a punch in the gut being told you have to wait because of the emergency C-section, and now being told you have to wait again. So, and I really wanted them close in age,
Mhm.
um, and I was really excited to be pregnant again. So there's that. I also think, come I want to try again and I want to try as soon as we can, but I can understand that I'm the emotions at that point doing that. So I did actually start therapy not that long ago. And hopefully in
Great.
that time I can work through emotions and try to, you know, grow a little bit myself. I also excited to work. I get stressed out, so work on how I manage my stress better. So I
Yeah.
think I'm excited because I'm gonna work on myself.
Mhm. I know. Working on yourself is harder than we think.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And going through an ectopic or going through really hard times puts things in perspective.
Mhm.
And maybe this just showed you that you matter and self-care matters. And whether that's, ending your day with a good TV show to relax your mind or being able to treat yourself to a coffee because it makes you happy or, just anything that puts yourself first
Mhm.
is really important.
Yeah.
Like I said, it puts things in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. Um,
I'm
no, and
really
I,
glad to hear that you started therapy because that changed my life.
yeah. Yeah.
I probably started right around where you're at, post
Mhm.
methotrexate, and oh my gosh, to talk to someone that is unbiased and can just be a listening ear
Mhm.
is amazing.
And the thing that it was kind of nice when I first, because I talked to her for the first time last week, and I did tell her, we're going through an ectopic pregnancy, and she knew what that was. So the fact, I don't know how she knows, but she does know of it. So, that I think that's, at least now I don't have to explain it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And I'm sure if she is a good therapist, she probably did some research too, even
Mhm.
following that first appointment where you told her. Hopefully,
Yeah.
she was able to understand what it is and what that means for you to better help you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have my next appointment tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah,
Good.
I think it's gonna
You'll
go well.
good. You'll have to let me know how that
Mhm.
goes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, is there anything else that you'd like to share on this podcast or anything you want to close with?
Um, I think I wouldn't mind sharing or closing with, I think it's nice to talk about strategies on how to cope through the whole experience and going through this, not having anybody who went through this as well. So I didn't have anyone to talk to on how to cope, but for me, what really helped, sorry,
No, it's okay.
come
No
the,
need to say sorry.
oh no, come the nicer weather. Luckily, my husband and I have a bit of a larger property being on the farm and all. But we're gonna plant a tree in memory of the baby. So for me, sorry,
It's okay.
for myself, that makes me feel like I've honored the baby. I've done
Mhm.
something for them.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is such a great way to remember the baby.
Yeah. So for me, I feel like it's a way of coping because I'm really excited to do that, and it's helped me feel like I've honored this baby. Um, it's kind of what I using to cope. So
Mhm.
I don't know, like I'm sure there's plenty of different ways, but I think it's nice to be able to share different other people's ideas on how they're coping and doing
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
I love that. I I think that's such a great way, and it's so fitting for your family living on a farm.
Yeah.
And, who knows down the line, it could be the place where you get family photos,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you have a bigger family.
Mhm.
And it's just going to be a really special place
Yeah.
for you
Exactly.
guys,
Yeah.
and it'll be a place of healing,
Mhm. Yeah.
especially as it
Sorry.
because especially as it grows, because you'll be growing together.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll be nice too as well. Like if you're having a bad day or remembering or something, you can always go there and
Yeah.
a nice place to be. So
Yeah. It'll just be a quick walk outside.
yeah.
And what I did to remember our baby was I bought one of my hospital visits. They had a gift shop, and I went into the gift shop and I bought a little brown bear. And I
Hmm.
would carry that bear with me to every appointment. I carried it with me during all of my rainbow baby appointments. I brought it to the hospital when I had my rainbow baby. And I also bought a necklace that had a little baby's breath seed. in it. And I
Yeah.
just felt at the time I could wear it and it was close to my heart.
Hmm.
And it brought me a lot of comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really special. I like the both of those ideas actually.
Yeah,
It's really nice. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, that's a great idea to highlight, how did you remember your baby? How did you cope?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Allison.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing, especially knowing how recent it was. And I'm going to keep you in my thoughts, and
Thank you.
I will keep you in my prayers.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me and giving everybody, this opportunity to share their story and basically raise awareness. It's really good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for listening to the Ectopic Pregnancy Support Podcast. If you are looking for additional resources, head to ectopicpregnancysupport.com to learn more about my exclusive online support chat. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. See you next time.